Hello everyone, this is Stephanie. Welcome to another video. So today we're going to continue on with our Bezeling a Cabochon series, and that series is going to be my playlists, which are up above, like near the banner on my channel. So you'll see you'll see playlists. You'll click it, and then you'll see a whole list of different playlists. So if you're looking for something in particular, like maybe just a bracelet, or you want an earring, or you want a bezel, or you want a cabochon or a bead embroidery, you can always click on that playlist and not go through the 200 and something videos that I have. I wouldn't want to do that either. However, we are going to bezel this today, and this is a 25mm teardrop cab. So it's a cabochon. So there's the back. So it's flat on the back and domed on the front, and we're going to do a 14mm round. So we're going to do both of these bezels today, and we're going to make this pendant, which I'm calling the goddess pendant. Kind of reminds me of those really pretty goddess pendants and bead embroidery. And that's what's so cool about this, is that it's like shortcut bead embroidery, and it's just beautiful. So like, wouldn't that be a gorgeous pendant? And you see this all the time in bead embroidery, but you don't always have enough time to do bead embroidery. Look at that big old pendant. That would be gorgeous, just like that. So I love that we can bezel all these different stones that I've originally purchased for bead embroidery, but don't always have the time. I mean, I love my bead embroidery and I love doing it, but I don't always have the time, and this kind of gives that look, which is cool. All right, so I'm going to clear this off, and we're going to get a materials list going, and we're going to get started. So don't forget to like and subscribe. You know the drill, ring the bell. You know the whole bit. I appreciate it. All right, see you in a minute. Okay, let's get a materials list going. So you need a 25mm teardrop shaped cab. So here are a few examples. So flat on the back, domed on the front. We're going to make this pendant today, so I'm going to use this one. This is sort of a fossilized something. And then you need a 14mm cabochon, and this is one of those Lunasoft cabs. And here this is a 16mm actually, but just as an example, flat on the back, domed on the front. If you noticed on these, I use Druzy, and I absolutely love Druzy. And if you don't know what that is, it's a stone that has little tiny crystals of minerals and on the surface, so they kind of form. So this is some kind of stone, I don't know what it is, and then these little minerals form on top of the stone. I don't know the geology of it, I just know that they're absolutely gorgeous. So if you look at this one, this would not be a good one to bezel, because do you see how high it is there, and then low and high? You want to find one that is as uniform around as possible so that you can get your bezel over it easily. Now, the nature of the stone is to be sticking up on the top, so it is difficult to find ones that are nice and even like this, or even as possible, but it is possible, because I find them, and if I can find the seller, I bought them on Etsy. If I can find the seller, or if I can find some sources for you, I will put them in the description box below the video. But you can use any stone. I just think it's so cool that you can bezel a Druzy. All right, so you need 2 colors of 11/0 Delicas, 2 colors of 15/0 seed beads, stop bead, size 10 beading needle, a couple of bicones to attach the pendant, 8-pound Firelie black satin. Did I say size 10 beading needle? Get a 12 also, have a 12 handy also. Don't forget the No More Oops bead tray. There's a link down below. This big beautiful Ringberries mat, 10% off coupon code down below. I will put all materials, everything I use in the video, color, shape, sizes, amounts, everything that you need to make the pendant. As far as the necklace is concerned, I will put I'll list what I used in the necklaces, what beads I used, but I'm not going to link in each individual bead. Like, these beads are all from the collections, Eureka Collections, the Dollar Bead Box, and Potomac Crystals. So I will link those websites and the names of the beads so you can look for them. And this one, I'll have to kind of find the sources for this one, because this was in my stash and I don't really remember where I got them. All right, so I think that's everything. So again, don't forget to look down below for all sizes, shapes, colors, amounts, everything you need to make the pendants that are on the video. All right, see you in a minute. Okay, let's get started. So we're going to start with the teardrop. So thread your needle with about 4 feet of thread, put on a stop bead right in the middle. So we can use one side for the front of the bezel, one side for the back. So I've picked up and dropped down to my stop bead 54 11/0 Delicas. I have alternated my colors because I'm just loving doing that right now, but you can use one color if you like. I started with this bronze color and I ended with the white. So I have 54 on. I'm going to just sew through the first bead after the stop bead, to make it into a circle. Okay, so this is what I have. Just like that. So now before we go any further, I want to see if it's going to fit this stone. So when I put this around my stone, see how my beads fit, like just right around the edge? I'm going to pull in super tight so you can see that. See that? Looks like it's going to be perfect. If it's like this, you have too many beads on. You're going to have to go down by a couple. If it's like this, you don't have enough beads on, so you're going to have to go up by a couple. It has to be two, right? Because we're doing a peyote bezel. So this is looking just about perfect to me to make this bezel. All right? So just, check it before you start so it fits properly. All right, so I'm exiting my bronze bead. I'm going to pick up a white. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to sew through every bronze bead, peyote. And that's what's so great about using, the two different colors, is that it just makes it so easy. But if you're just using one color, you're exiting here, you're going to skip the next bead and sew through the following bead. So just your standard peyote bezel we're starting with. We're going to change it a little bit, but later, just to accommodate that little point there. So I'm just going to take my white bead and I'm going to sew through every bronze bead, making sure that they pop up on the previous white bead. So just going through the bronze. Again, if you're just using one color, you're picking up a bead, exiting here, skipping the next one, sewing through the following one. Okay, so either way, you're going to do that all the way around, and then meet me at the end, and we're going to step up together. Keep it nice and fluid. Don't pull super tight yet. We're just going to kind of keep a nice even tension. All right, see you in a minute. Okay, coming down to the end, I have one bead to put on, so I'm going to step up. So exiting this bronze bead, I'm going to skip the white one, and I'm going to sew through the bronze bead and the white one on the diagonal. Now I'm ready to put some more beads on. So I'm going back to my bronze bead, and I'm just going to put a bronze bead on through. I'm going to just sew it through every sticking out Delica. Just like that. So you're going to do that all the way around, and then we'll step up. So as you're doing this end, you can give it a little pull. Doesn't have to be super tight. It's going to curve on its own, but you just want to keep nice even tension. All right, see you in a minute. Okay, coming down to my last bead here. So see how it's starting to curve. So I'm just going to pick up my last bronze bead, and I'm just going to sew through this white bead and the bronze bead on the diagonal. That has stepped me up. So now I'm up at the top. I can put some more beads on. So I'm just going to give it a little pull at this point. And now we're going to switch to some 15-ohs. So I'm going to start with my crystally white 15-oh, but you can do any color you like. So I'm just going to sew a 15-oh through every sticking out Delica. Like that. So you're going to just do that all the way around, and then we'll step up. Okay, time to step up. So here, exiting this bronze bead, I'm going to sew through this bronze one and that little white one on the diagonal. Stepped up. Okay, now you know what we're going to do. One more round, for now, of 15-ohs. So I'm picking up my contrasting color. I'm just going to put one 15-oh between each sticking out 15-oh or up bead, whatever you want to call it. Like that, and you're pulling a little bit as you go, so get that done and then come on back and we'll continue. Okay, approaching the end, so I have a few more beads to put on here. There. Put on this one. So here we're going to step up, so exiting the white bead, sewing through this white bead and the bronze one on the diagonal. And I'm just going to let that sit. And I'm just going to put this needle aside, take off my stop bead, and thread my other needle, because we're going to work on the other side, but we're not done with this side yet. All right, so just get to this point and then we'll continue. Okay, so here we've done this one side here, and I'm just leaving that thread and needle. We'll get back to that. And now I'm going to work on this side. So I've taken off my stop bead, threaded my needle, exiting this little bronze bead here. I just want to get to these outside beads here so I can add some beads on. So I'm just going to sew through this one. I'm not going to pull at this point. I want to get the stone in before we pull. So if you notice, you see how my bezel, it's loose. The Delica side is really kind of loose. So I'm just going to pick up my stone, and I'm going to put my stone in face up. So in the past, we've put the stone in face down for the round bezels, but this one, you want to put the stone in face up. So here, nice and loose here, put the stone in face up, and then you can give it a little pull. It's not going to stay because we have to work, put more 15-0s on. So I'll just hold it just to show you. So here, that's what the back looks like. I'm just going to hold it with my thumb and these 2 fingers, or these 3 fingers, whatever is most comfortable, and I'm just going to just hold it gently. It's not going to stay for a while yet. So I'm going to add 15-0s. So I'm going to pick up my contrasting color 15-0, and I'm just going to add a 15-0 in between each Delica, like that. I'm just going to do this all the way around, so nothing, unusual yet, or nothing different. So just get that done and meet me at the end and we'll step up. Okay, we're coming to the end. So I'm just going to step up. So exiting this white bead, the white Delica, I'm just picking up a 15-0, sewing through this white Delica and the one on the diagonal, like that. And still, it's not going to stay, but it's starting to mold a little bit. So now we're going to put on another round. So I'm just going to pick up my white bead, and I'm just going to put on a 15-0 between every sticking out bronze bead. So just do that all the way around, and then meet me at the end and we'll step up. Okay, coming down to my step up. So I've put on this bead, I'm exiting the bronze bead, picking up my white bead, sewing through this bronze one and the white bead on the diagonal. Okay, now we're just going to change things slightly because we want to put another round of 15-0s on. So before I even do that, so when I look at the point here, I'm going to sort of, at the moment, the bezel, well, it's not moving a lot, but I can still move it a little bit. So I want this bronze bead with the indented bronze bead right there, right at the point, if possible. I mean, it's probably not that noticeable, but we're going to change the point a little bit. So I just want to make everything nice and even and beautiful. So I've put that, I've kind of situated it so it's right there. And if it moves as you're, putting beads on, you can always move it back because, it's just like a fraction of a fraction. All right, so I'm going to pick up my bronze bead. I'm just going to sew through the next 15-0. I'm going to pick up my next one, sew through this 15-0. I just want to make sure I'm keeping that little bronze line right there. Pick up a 15-0, sew through the next one, like that. Now we're going to pick up another 15-0. Going to sew through this one. Okay, so just the next 15-0, like that. And now instead of putting a bead here, so picking up a 15-0 and putting a 15-0 right there, I'm just going to skip over it with my needle and thread and just go right to the next bead. And when I pull that in, do you see how it pulls it together? Just make sure it stays up at the top there. And it pulls it together, and you can't even see the thread over there. And it just, what it does is it kind of, just that little bit sort of preserves the shape, rather than if you keep going around, one, it's going to be a little big, and two, it's just going to make the bezel more round. I want to keep that point up there. So then I'm just going to continue on just one, bead through every sticking out 15-0, just preserving that point right there. So I'm looking at it periodically to make sure that my point is staying right up at the top there. And so you're just going to do that all the way around, and then meet me back here and we'll continue. Okay, approaching the end. I'm going to step up now. So exiting this white bead, I'm just going to sew through this one and the bead on the diagonal, holding it, pulling it inward, and there you have it. So see how just that one, missing that one little bead there, just made a beautiful point, and it pulled the beads in a little. So at this point, we're gonna reinforce, but you want to test your bezel. So mine's really good. It's not moving. It's it's pretty snug. If it is a little loose, because these are natural stones, so you don't know if if you need another round, let's say. So I'm turning to the back now, and you might need another round on the back. I don't think I do, so I'm just going to reinforce now. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, well, we could start on the back. I'm exiting a 15-0 here. I'm just going to sew through one on the diagonal, and then I'm going to come through to this Delica. And then I'm just going to sew all the way around the bezel through the Delicas. You can just do the Delicas, or you can do the Delicas and the 15-0s. It's up to you. Just do it on the diagonal. I do think I'm just going to work through the Delicas right now. So I'm going. And I want you to do this all the way around, especially if your bezel isn't as tight as you want it to be. So you can, by putting more thread in the beads, and you don't want to pull super tight, you want to pull just snug, you want to keep your tension good. So I'm holding it, but I'm holding it with my thumb and other fingers as well while I pull, because that way you're going to keep your bezel, the integrity of the bezel, really intact. And then I'm just going to go on the other side. So here's my front. I'm going to give it a little pull, make sure I'm happy with everything, looks great, it doesn't need another round, everything is looking really good. I'm just going to do the same thing on this side. So I'm exiting this little bronze bead. I'm going to sew through this white bead, and then I'm going to sew through this bronze bead. So I'm through a bronze, and I'm going to go to this Delica. And then I'm just going to, on this side, you can do the same thing. You can sew through the Delicas and the 15-0s, or just the 15-0s. Do everything on the diagonal so that no thread shows. So you can, switch it up and go through. You just want to just sew all the way around so that your bezel is nice and snug and it's not going to move around. And you want to look at the front all the time and make sure everything looks good. So when I move it this way, it's not moving. I mean, it will slightly move this way a little bit, just the edge, but that's very normal. It's not going to move. The stone is not going to come out. It's nice, it's in there, pretty sturdy. So do that reinforcing on both sides, and then you're going to just sew in your threads, and then you have your bezel done. So very fun, very cool. Just that one little change makes all the difference in the point here. All right, so get that done, and then when we come back, we'll do the 14mm round stone. Okay, it's time to do the 14mm. So just a note, if you don't have a 14mm, you can do this with a 16mm, and this is that 18mm. It's not a Lunastoff, this is a check glass cab from Eureka Crystal Beads' last collection. So that works as well. So just use the technique I'm using, and you can adjust the number of beads you put on and really bezel any, especially round stone. So we're going to work with the 14mm. So I've threaded my needle with about 30 inches of thread. put on a stop bead right in the middle, so we're doing the same thing. I put on 36, let me just check, 36 Delicas, and I alternated the colors. I started with the bronze, I ended with a white. I'm going to sew them into a circle, just going to sew up the first bead after the stop bead. And then I'll show you how to fit around so you know how many beads to put on. Let's see if you have a larger stone. Okay, so I've just made it into a circle. So here's my 14 millimeter. When I put it around, here I'll move my stop bead out of the way. If you notice, my beads fit exactly around the edge. There's just a hair of space between the beads and the cabochon, not much. I mean, that is perfect. If it's up here, if it's too small, you have to add more beads. If it's this way, you have to take off some beads. So if, let's say you want to do the 16 millimeter, when I do that, do you see how that does not fit? So you're going to have to add some beads on. So you're going to add, it looks like you're going to add 4 more beads. And you have to do it in twos, right? Because it's peyote. So if I'm using 36, you're probably going to use 40 for a 16 millimeter, and then you can do the exact same thing for an 18 millimeter. As long as your beads are resting right on the outside, right next to each other, that's how many beads you're going to use, and you can really bezel any cabochon that way. Or probably any crystal as well. All right, so we're exiting that first bead, so I'm just going to pick up my white bead, and I'm going to do the same bezel. I'm exiting this one, skipping this one, sewing through the bronze one. Make sure it pops up. I know, just like before. Pick up a white one. So if you're doing alternating colors, all you have to do is sew through the bronze one. Pick up a white one, sew through the next bronze one. Just make sure it pops up. Like so. Pick up a white. If you're doing one color, exiting this one, skip the next bead, sew through the next bead. So we're just adding Delicas on. Peyote, it's like we've been doing. So do that all the way around and then step up and we'll continue. Okay, getting ready to step up. So I'm exiting the bronze bead, skipping the white bead, sewing through this bronze bead and the white one on the diagonal. That pull. That's what we have. You got it. We're going to put on another round of Delicas. So we're just going to pick up a bronze Delica and sew through each of the white Delicas, or each sticking out Delica. And you're going to let it curve. See how when I put my thumb right there, it kind of just, and pull slightly, it's starting to curve. That's good. All right, so do that all the way around and then step up and we'll continue on. Okay, we're back and I've stepped up with my last Delica. So now I'm going to put on a round of 15-ohs. So I'm picking up my white 15-oh. I'm just going to sew through every bronze Delica or every sticking out Delica. So just like that. And I have my thumb in here and it's curving a little bit. Like that. So that's just where you want it. So do that all the way around, and then you're going to put another round on. So I'm going to finish this white round, and then I'm going to put on I'm going to step up, and then I'm going to put on my bronze round. So I'll just let you do these 2 rounds, and then come on back, and we'll continue. Okay, coming to my step up. So exiting this little opal bead, picking up my bronze, I'm going to sew through this 15-oh, the white one, or opal one, and the one on the diagonal, just that bronze bead. Now I am stepped up, and I'm going to leave this thread and needle for now, because we might, we're going to get back to this, and I'm going to turn it on the other side. I'm going to remove my stop bead and thread my needle, and I'm just going to let you get to that point, and then we'll continue with beading on the back. Okay, so I've taken my stop bead off and I've threaded my needle, and you want to make sure, I know you've heard this before, that your thread is coming out of one of these edge beads, the white edge beads. So I'm exiting this bronze bead right here, so I'm just going to sew up through that white bead, the Delica. So now that my thread's in the right place. I'm going to pick up my stone and I'm going to put it in this way because I want you to check for fit. Now this is very important. If you haven't watched the other videos, you want the Delicas, when you're doing a cabochon, the way I do it anyway, you want those Delicas right at the edge of your cabochon. So see when I put it in how this kind of flush right up against it? It's not like this. If it's like this all the way around, you don't have enough Delicas on, and you'll have to put another round on. You want the Delicas to come right up to the edge there. Okay, and in some cases, like with this one, it's perfect. But then if you have a cabochon that's really thicker, and deeper, you might not, but it's a 14 millimeter, it might just come up to there, and you'll need another round of Delicas on. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to capture that stone. So I'm just perfect here. Fits right in. So I'm going to start putting on some 15-0s. So I'm going to start whatever color you're starting with. I'm just going to just put a 15-0 through every Delica, like that. Just going to do that all the way around. And we're probably going to do it, at least 2 times and maybe 3. So if you want to go ahead and continue and do 2 or 3 rounds, you can do that. I'm just going to go all the way around, and then I'm going to come back and step up with you. Okay, getting ready to step up. So here, exiting that white Delica, I'm going to sew through this Delica and the little 15-0 on the diagonal. Place that bead on. Now we're going to keep going. So I'm going to pick up my contrasting color, and I'm going to put another round of 15-0s on. And when I get to the end of this round, I'm going to just take a look and see, do I need another round of 15-0s to make the stone stay? It looks like I might. I'm not sure. So I'm just going to do this, and then meet me at the end, and we'll see if we need another round. All right, see you in a minute. Back for a second. I know I keep reminding you, but I'm going to do it one more time. When you're putting on your beads, you're pulling inward towards the center of the stone. Not pulling tight, you're just giving it a little bit of guidance inward. And you see how that pulls it together? Because again, you don't have all those little angles and low and high points on the back of a cabochon because it's flat. So you're just going to keep doing that all the way around till you get to the end, and then we'll decide whether we need another round. Okay, I'm going to step up. So exiting the bronze, sewing through this little bronze and the little white one on the diagonal. It'll pull in. And now I'm thinking, do I need another round? That looks really good, doesn't it? Love it. You know what? I think I'm going to put one more round on just to, see how that works. So decide whether or not you want to do that. If you want to do another round, go ahead and do it. You can even put a little Charlotte in there if the 15-0 doesn't fit. But I'm going to try it and see how it works. And then meet me back here and we'll trudge on. So if you're not putting another round on, let's say also, you can, and you're finished, you can sew in your threads. Just like we did with the teardrop, go around your bezel front and back and tighten it up and then sew your threads in and clip them off and then come back. All right, so I'll be back after I'm done with my next round and we'll continue. Okay, we're back. So here I did do that last round and I think it was very helpful. Just made it just seem so perfect. And then I just sewed in all my threads. I went around a little bit, just to reinforce, and then I sewed in all my threads, and this is what I have. And I absolutely love it. I think that's going to look Fantastic. So now we're going to do this little connection right here. And notice it's a very fluid connection. I wanted it to be able to move and not just be stiff. So this is how we're going to do that. We're going to thread a needle with, you only need about a foot of thread, maybe 14 inches, just so you can maneuver it. So I want to attach these two guys like that. So I'm going to attach them over 3 beads, and I'm going to use these 3 back Delicas, 1, 2, and 3. Now the reason I'm going to use those is because when I kind of look on the front, that's kind of centered in my stone. So here's my sort of my center bead right here, and then I'm just using 1 on either side. So, you know, try to get like center, and then just, so here's center again. I'm using this bead and this bead, so I'm sewing through these 3 beads. The way I'm going to do that is I'm just going to take my needle and thread, and I'm going to sew through without any beads, just leave enough of a tail to sew in. And that, so I've put on a thread through this bead right here. Okay. Now I want to get to this bead, so the 3rd bead in my line. So instead of going straight through, because I don't want to leave a thread, I'm just going to go on the diagonal. I'm going to sew through the white one. I'm going to sew through this bronze one. I'm going to sew through this white one. And then I'm going to sew through this bronze one. Okay, this is what I have. So I have the stop bead here. Actually, let me pull that up a little bit. And I've got a thread to sew in here. And then I have my working thread coming out of this Delica in the back right here. Okay, I'm going to pick up a 15-0, a 3mm bicone, and a 15-0. Just going to lay this down. I'm going to just pick any of the Delica on the bottom part again of the round stone. So I used, see, I used the edge Delicas here, so I'll use the edge Delicas here too. So I'm going to use, I'll be using the white ones on this. So it doesn't really matter where you start on this because it's a circle. So it's, you know, you don't have to center anything. So I'm just going to go through a Delica like that. So that's what that looks like. So I'm going to, so on the round stone, I'm going to attach using 3 Delicas as well. So I've already come through this first one. Then I'm going to use this one, and I want to come out of this one. So I'm going to do the same thing I did on the teardrop. I'm just going to work my way over to this, so I'm coming out of this bead, and I'm going to do that by going on the diagonal. So exiting this white one, sewing through this bronze one, my tail, there we go. So sewing through that bronze one, through this white one, just moving my thread over. This bronze one, and then this white one. So that's where I want to be coming out. And I'm going to pull. This is what I have, like that. Now I'm just going to, then a little pull. I'm going to pick up a 15-0, my bicone, and a 15-0. And I'm going to find that 3rd bead on now on the teardrop. So remember I started with this one. I'm using this one and this one. I'm going to go this way. Like that. And when I pull, that's how it goes on. So if you notice, like the bicones, they kind of poke out a little to the sides, and that's what I wanted. That's why I put it on this way, so that so the thread path is the same for both sides. So all you want to do at this point is you're just going to retrace your steps and go through all the beads. So you're going to just sew on the diagonal till you get back to that last bronze one, go around, sew around this guy, you know, get to these again, sew around, and then sew your threads in. And you're getting there, and the pendant is together. So then get that done, and when we come back, we'll make this little peyote bail, and you'll have a pendant. All right, see you in a few. Okay, we're going to make the little peyote strip for the bail right here. So all you're going to do is thread a needle with about, I don't know, 1.5 feet of thread. Depends on how big you want your bail. Now this bail is integrated into my necklace, so I sewed it around my necklace. If you want it not integrated into your necklace, you want to make it bigger, you know, and the opening wider. So we're just going to do an even count peyote strip, and we're going to do it with 6 beads. So I've put on, and I'm using Delicas, I put on a bronze Delica, 4 white Delicas, and a bronze. Just get you started on this. So now you're just going to do your just regular peyote bezel, a peyote strip. So we're exiting this. We're just going to skip that bead. Sew through the white bead underneath it. So I've picked up a bronze. And then that's going to sit that bead. So that's going to be my edge bead. Then I'm going to pick up a white. I'm exiting the white bead. I'm going to skip the next white bead and sew through the following white bead. It's so hard to hold. Like that. I'm going to pick up another white bead. I'm going to skip the next white bead and sew through the bronze bead. Okay. Established my pattern. Pick up a bronze, go back up. Pick up a white. Pick up a white. Going back down. Bronze. White, white, you get the pattern. So then you're just going to keep doing that up and down until you get the length of the strip that you want, and then we'll attach it to the bezel. All right, see you in a few. Back. So let's attach our little peyote strip. So here I'm exiting this indented bead here. Just want to find some corresponding beads on this top here that are centered. So the ones I've chosen are this one, the one next to it, and the one after it. So these 3, 1, 2, 3, we're going to work over that span. So I'm just going to take my needle, bring it through, and that's going to attach my first bead. Okay, so do you see how this bead right here I've attached to this bead on the bezel. Now I'm going to sew through the bead on the band, and then I'm going to go through this bead on the bezel. So zipping, and then this bead on the band, of the bail, and then this bead on the bezel, and then last one, this one on the bail. Keep calling it a band. Now I'm attached, but this bead is not attached, so the best way to attach this one, I believe, is to go through this white one in this direction. You see how it pulls everything together? And that's pretty well centered. So all you want to do now is just sew your threads in. So I'm just going to, you'll just work your way along the outside of the bezel on the diagonal. You can work your way back up through the bail if you want, or just continue, going around the bezel, and then until it's secure, and then we'll come back and we'll attach the other side. All right, see you in a few. Okay, let's attach the other side. So here's the front. We'll just find some beads to zip up on this side. So here I'm exiting this indented bead on the end. I'm going to use these 3 15-ohs. You can see that. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to go over this span of beads here. Okay, so I'm just going to take my needle, sew through this guy, like that. And then I'm going to sew through this bead on the bail, and then this bead on the bezel, so that 15-oh, and then this bead on the bail, then this bead, this 15-oh on the bezel, and then this bead on the bail. I'm connected. So I'm going to do the same thing I did on the other side. Connects well to this bead right here. So I'm going, in the opposite direction to pull it together. There you go. And then you're just going to sew through a number of beads. Let's see, we can go through. Can we get through this one again? Oh, maybe we'll go through this one. And then I pulled my needle off, but you're just going to sew like we've been doing. Sew through the beads to tighten it, sew around the bezel a little bit. You can sew through the band a little bit, however you want to sew your threads in at that point. And this is what it looks like. Looking pretty good, huh? Are we straight and centered? Yes, that looks great. All right, very happy. This is kind of a long one, so here I'll roll it up a little bit. All right, so here's our goddess pendant. I just think it's so cool. So as far as the chain goes, like I said, I think I mentioned in the intro, this one, all these beads are from my stash, and they're from like Dollar Bead Box, they're from Eureka Crystals, Potomac Beads. I've just pulled out a whole bunch of beads, and what I'll do is I'll link the websites where I found them. I'm not going to link each individual bead; it would be too long. But you can just I'll write what they are, and then you can always search for them. This one is I've used crystal rondelles. And these rondelles, these are actually onyx rondelles, so gemstones. I'll see if I can find a source for this necklace if you're interested in this necklace. Because I don't really quite remember where I purchased everything for that. All right. So I hope you enjoy this video. I hope you're having as much fun bezeling cabochons that I am having so much fun. That didn't come out right, but you know what I mean. They love the Druzys, love the Lunasoft cabs. I'll put this in the series, so don't forget to check out if you're interested, the series, and just have a blast bezeling your cabochons. All right, take care. I'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.